there was a blow to the gut, and then there was, in your divorce, a blow to the heart.
Right.
So both of these blows kind of broke your shell in a certain way. The shell of the lawyer, successful, everything is working fine, fast cars, big money, big reputation.
Right.
And then the crumbling, which in the moment of the impact feels terrible,
Right.
but then also brings about a rebirth in your case, right?
This is
a deep rebirth. What was that like? This gradual coming out of this tremendous suffering that's in this shock, and then coming back to life in a new way. What was your process in that?
So you've described it accurately and beautifully. It was the most painful time of my entire life, and I didn't really know what true pain was until I went through this. I felt alone. I lost all my self-confidence in the process. I felt disgusted with myself, and so this was a period of maybe 2 or 3 years of deep despair and searching for why I had made such a mess out of my life. And I began reading everything I could find that could provide answers for me. And my sister, who I have 2 sisters, but this was my older sister, had been through the same journey in her life, and she'd been through a divorce and had suffered from alcoholism, and so she used this same method for renewing her life, which turned out to be so beautiful. She actually went to work as a key leader in Alcoholics Anonymous in New York and did that for 20 or 30 years. But anyway, I used this process of reflection, journaling, reading, and finally gathering the courage to follow my true destiny, because for at least 3 of those 7 years, I knew that I should not be practicing law, that my destiny lay in fulfilling this dream of creating what eventually became the American Leadership Forum. And I just didn't have the courage to leave the firm, to leave my tribe, and to suffer the consequences, which I knew would happen, where people say, Joseph's gone off the deep end. And I would lose a lot of friends in the process. Yeah. And it was Joseph Campbell, in his description of the hero's journey, he calls it the road of trials, right? In deep despair and going through hell. And that's what I went through. And of course, eventually, if you stay with it, you can renew yourself. And this took years of work.
I really appreciate that you share this, very personal, vulnerable experience with us, because I think so often we just hear about the great transformation, when people have arisen out of the difficulty, and then it all sounds so attractive. But that there is this profound transformational process where you go into such despair, suffering, not knowing whether you will come out on the other end. In fact, if you already think you will come out, you can't really allow the depths that you need to go into to then emerge. Exactly. So then there is a great courage needed to be that vulnerable, yes. Right? And we often mistake courage for kind of a macho bravado.
Yes.
But in fact, it's the courage to be vulnerable, to be helpless, to be feeling the pain that so many things shield us from.
Right.
and yet you also did come out the other end. So how was that like when your identity was crumbling, you know, all these feelings were there, but then the light, the end of the tunnel became apparent, and you did come out. How was that other emergent part of your process?
That's a beautiful part of my life, and you know, I just smile because it was just so lovely, and the despair and the pain that we just talked about actually enabled me to do things that were I thought were impossible to achieve. So what happened was that as I was coming to the conclusion that I must leave the law firm, I was living in London. I was leading our London firm there. I established it, created a partnership with a London, very fine old London firm, and was working all over Europe and all over the world, and doing, you know, really interesting, important work, not only in litigation but in creating things. But eventually, a guide, in my experience, always shows up, and this guide was one of my clients, whose name is Tom Faggio, and Tom was a great entrepreneur. He founded Browning and Ferris Industries, BFI, which you see these blue trucks running around all over the world, right? But he started with one truck riding on the back of it in his neighborhood to see how to do this process of picking up garbage and managing waste. So he was a very good client, very successful person, and one of my best friends, and I shared with him this dream I had. And I told him that I would stay in the law firm, and I would be the executive, the non-executive chairman of the board, and I would do all these things, you know, and basically sitting on the sideline and not risking much, you know, and I would have this great dream come true. He just looked me straight in the eye and he said, Joseph, he said, it's not going to work that way. You have to commit deeply to doing this and leave the law firm, or it's not going to work. You can't build an enterprise like the one you're describing if you don't commit 110% to it. And I eventually listened to him, and that's what I realized he was correct. So I did. I left the law firm.
On our website, globalleadership.tv, you will find additional footage, other dialogues with innovation leaders from around the world, and also the hands-on practices that help them and their organizations to move from inspiration to real change.